So I'm going to be viewing the effects of climate change. So firstly, what is climate change? Climate change describes a change in the average conditions such as temperature and rainfall in a region over a long period of time. In a short period of time, it should be called weather, but the climate is something that occurs over a long period of time. And the climate's been changing slowly throughout the Earth's history. Only rare instances where the surface temperature actually increases at the rate it is currently. But in the past, we've had ice ages, we've had heat bloom, hotter times, and this has affected the Earth in a number of different ways. But in this current iteration of climate change, humans are causing nearly 100% of the increased temperature uh, in the past 150 years through the release of CO2 and other greenhouse gases. CO2 warms up the atmosphere through the greenhouse effect, which it holds the radioactive energy from the sun, and it doesn't let it go back. It doesn't let it bounce off into the into space. It keeps on holds on to us like a blanket. Now we are on track to cause a cascading event in the next decade if we do not cut back our emissions drastically. This cascading event I was talking about, it would be that if too much phytoplankton die off, then more CO2 would be kept in the atmosphere, killing off more phytoplankton. The phytoplankton, they photosynthesize and they produce oxygen. And they take in CO2. If enough of these guys die, it'll kill more of them and more of them and more of them, and there would be nothing that we could do to stop this. Hopefully, luckily, it's not yet occurring. We still have just some time. So, how does climate change affect people specifically? So, firstly, the Earth's average air temperature is on an upward trend. Each year, droughts are worse than the previous year. There are extreme heat events in the summer that kills people each year and causes poor air quality from the increased wildfire risks that also harms people's health and their livelihoods. The uh, the increased Earth temperature is melting the polar ice caps. The sea level is rising. I'm sure everyone knows. People who live near the coast or own homes right on the water are at high risk of losing their homes in the near future, to rising oceans and to increased severity of storms due to climate change. Farmers won't be able to grow as many crops, and with less food to feed people, people will start to starve to death. Animals will also be smaller and less healthy as competition for food and water will increase. Um, how does climate change affect economies? Well, I know a fair bit about the fishing effects of fishing when it comes to climate change because of different projects I've done in the past. But the fishing industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry in the United States, and due to climate change, the fish are moving to colder waters, disrupting ecosystems and fisheries alike. Many species are even moving to Canadian waters outside of the U.S., causing lost jobs and less food for markets, in the U.S. at least. I'm sure Canada is loving it. This is also happening many different places across the world, and it's adding it's matched along with overfishing. The fish are just not having a good time right now. Um, from storm damage alone, uh, in just the state of Texas, was $125 billion in damages in 2017. And the cost of climate change related incidents each year has been around 240 million, a billion a year for the past 10 years, with more intense storms on the horizon. Climate change will cost the US a lot more in the future. Now, the future looks grim for economies around the world. It's predicted by 2050 that the cost of climate change will be nearly $8 trillion due to the loss of crops, storm damage, and threatened infrastructure, wildfires, droughts, and floods. Now, this is not money that'll go towards helping us. This is just reparations for all the damage that's going to happen. This is just lost money. This is not good. So, how is climate change affecting the global economy? Now, like any individual economy, things aren't looking pretty bad right now. For countries that fish, fishing is down and people are being laid off. Certain things will begin to get more expensive. Quality of life will decrease. Uncertain times for the future means a global economy is not going to look good. Um, as the coastlines start to become less habitable, as the oceans rise and storms become more common, people will be forced inland as their homes suddenly become worthless overnight. This is happening now all around the world, and the US isn't the only country being hit by droughts, major storms, and flooding. Insurance is the single largest industry on the planet. insurance companies are losing their ability to pay for people's damages to their homes and their property. This means higher premiums and greater costs to the economy. In perfect times, there's no problems in the world, the economies boom. But when there are problems such as climate change, the world suffers. Here's works cited.